You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All right, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and I am joined, as always, by your co-hosts, Kevin and Alex. Gentlemen, how we doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Another week of football in the books. You know, hopefully everyone had a successful week in fantasy land. I guess first and foremost, thoughts and prayers go out to Nick Chubb. What a unfortunate injury last night against the Steelers. Definitely gruesome, right? For lack of better words, it was just gruesome. It was a clean play, right? So, and I don't think anyone's assuming that it wasn't, right? Minkah Fitzpatrick he was coming in, he was trying to hit him, in the thigh and got his knee right after Chubb planted on the ground. But that's what the NFL wants, right? They don't care that they're cutting these players' careers short. And Nick Chubb's career very well could be over, right? Very well could be over. They want to protect their heads, and it's forcing these players to go low. And these are unfortunate injuries that happen. So I wish him a speedy recovery. I would, love to see a full recovery for him, for his family, to be able to get back into a Browns uniform and continue to, crush it like he has for the last, 7 seasons in the NFL, or 6 seasons in the NFL. But, right now it's all about the recovery, man. So, Godspeed, prayers to Nick Chubb and his family, and just I wish him the best.
It's been a rough first 2 weeks in terms of just injuries happening to marquee players in prime time. Happened with Aaron Rodgers in week 1, happened to Nick Chubb. So I hope that this is a trend that does not continue as we march through this season, that the whole world gets to see these dudes go through horrific injuries. Hopefully everybody got hurt. That Nick Chubb. I can't even watch the video. I've seen a still image, and I can't go watch the video, and I'm not going to go seek it out by any means to go.
It makes your stomach flip.
Yeah,
it really does. So
I don't need to see it. I don't want to see it. I've heard enough. It will do me no good to go seek out that video. But hopefully that recovery process begins. And we get to see Nick Chubb out on the field again sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Can I add something real quick?
Go ahead.
I have no favoritism or disdain towards the Steelers in general, like before this, during this, whatever. But I tell you what, the way that the fan base applauded and chanted and cheered on Nick Chubb as he was getting put on that cart and put off the field. Like, I don't know that I'm going to say I'm a Steelers fan, but I don't know that I could ever say anything poor about that fan base going forward. Like, it was such a class act. And I don't know that you would see that in 31 other stadiums, but you saw it in Pittsburgh, and my hat goes off to them, way to represent yourselves, your team, your sport the right way. And I don't know if I can, say enough positive things about that part of the story, but I wanted to take a moment and say, hats off to the Steelers fan base, because you guys were above class acts last night, and it's nice to see.
Yeah, I'll take a hard left turn here. How about that Colorado State game? Did you guys stay up for that?
I watched,
good fantastic football game. Boxing match in the first half. It was gross and ugly. Kind of stayed that way in the second half, where it was gross and ugly. They started playing football a little bit more there in the second half. But what a great thing for the state of Colorado in football, because Lord knows the NFL franchise that calls Colorado home, oh boy, they put up a stinker the following day. Despite all their best efforts, praying to the deities above in the final seconds. And I know there's going to be a lot of Broncos fans that I'm sure are probably like, oh, that was a pass interference on the 2 points, a pass interference. Like, guess what? Don't leave it to where you need a 2-point conversion to try and tie the game at home against Washington. Don't put yourself in that situation, and then you don't have to worry about a pass interference call or not call there. So I think
yes, it was PI, but yes, you're also correct. Don't leave it up
put
to
yourself in that situation.
Wait,
here's my problem with the Broncos now that they've dropped these 2 games at home. I don't know where the win comes on their roster going forward.
Oh, I haven't even looked.
Like at Miami, they're going to get boat raced. Guys, like, oh my God, I can't wait till the Friday show because I'm taking Miami, I'm taking the over, and my prop is going to be for every single Miami player to just go over their prop. Like, I don't think that there's any way that they stop them at all. Then they're on the road in Chicago. That's the maybe. But then they're home against the Jets. They're not going to beat the Jets at home. They showed they can't stop the run. Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall will go rough shot. Then they're at Kansas City. Gone. Packers come to town.
With essentially what we think will be a healthy Aaron Jones by that point, right?
Gone, yeah. Then Chiefs again, then at the Bills. Then the Vikings come to town with Justin Jefferson and company. They're going to go air raid.
Yeah,
the Browns with that defense, there's no way. Here you go, the Texans. They might have a chance December 3rd against the Texans, but it's in Houston. And outside of that, guys, I don't see a win now. Like, I went from the beginning of the season saying 9-8, and now I'm going to say 2-15. Like,
this is a very real possibility.
2-15. The Broncos are going to be picking, and thank God they have their first round pick, but the Broncos are going to be picking inside the top 5 and probably inside the top 3.
Hey, maybe we can get a quarterback that,
Hey,
anyway.
So here's a funny thing that I heard.
Arizona has more fight than the Broncos does. There's a better chance that Arizona finds a way to sneak out a win just because their try hard is there. The Broncos are finding ways to lose. There is zero cohesion. The play calling in the second half absolutely sucks. They go horizontal, not vertical. The defense just gave up. Like, there's, the Washington offensive line is a good group. They're not a great group. And they opened up massive holes. Massive holes. Derek and I are standing side by side at the game, and I'm just shaking my head. Like, I was speechless to the point I finally blurted out, like, can we just trade the Jets and we'll give them Russell Wilson. We'll take Zach Wilson because then we can expect this crap, and at least we're not paying him $50 million.
Well, but they're not yet. Not yet. That contract kicks in next year. You can still cut him and be fine.
He gone, man. Like, he gone. That stat line that he has is fool's gold. Anyone who's believing that, you're not paying attention to the game. 308 yards and 3 touchdowns came off of 3 plays.
Mm-hmm.
3 plays.
Most of them to Marvin Mims.
Yeah, 2 to Marvin Mims in the first half. One was the 60-yard touchdown. The other one was like a 40-yard grab down the sideline. And then the 50-yard touchdown pass to Brandon Johnson to, get that 2-point conversion. But it was, off a tip. It wasn't even that he hit him. It was just tipped back. The guy was in the right place. That's it, guys. Like, so you're talking about over half of his yardage coming off of 3 passes and 2/3 of his touchdowns. You know what he did the rest of the game? Checked it down, threw it off target, got sacked, scrambled, went for a yard, fumbled the ball. Oops, there, cost him points before halftime. Threw a bad interception right there at the beginning, or right after that. So back-to-back turnovers. It was awful. I am 90% of the way through with my breakup letter for the Broncos this season already, and we're 2 games in.
Fun.
Yeah.
I know that there's some other things that we want to get to, and I put these questions in for our rundown here. And I don't know if you guys want to touch on either one of them. There is one that I do want to talk about, and it's a frustrating thing for me because in one of my other leagues, I did not draft him. I committed the eternal sin of not being present for a draft when a draft was taking place. And it is my fault, and I live with my consequences, or the consequences of my actions. But is it time to move on from Justin Fields? 2 weeks now. I see him down here at QB 16 through 2 weeks of the season. That's not where you were drafting Justin Fields. So your return on investment right now is bad. Now, is it too early to hit the panic button? Or is it time to look at other options?
For Fields, I think you stay the course, right? Like, he hasn't been using his legs yet, but that is to come. So, and he is throwing the ball deep, right? So you do get some of those chunk plays. His time will come, right? As they get settled in, I think he will use his legs more and more. So you're not going to find another quarterback on the waiver wire that can give you the upside that Justin Fields does. They might have a safer floor, right? So I would advise having a second quarterback on the roster and maybe pivoting back and forth a little bit if you don't love the matchup. Anyway, right? Derek and I talked about that on the Friday night show. I was not expecting a whole lot. I was surprised he got the rushing touchdown that he did. Like, it is what it is. But I think you hold out for Fields. I think you give him another week, maybe two, and let him kind of sort some things out here, because I do think that we've probably seen the worst these first 2 weeks, and I do think the best of Justin Fields is yet to come. So, if people do get frustrated and they happen to drop him in your league, stash him.
Yep.
Grab him, because I think by the time we get into weeks 9, 10, 11, 12, as you're making that playoff push, I do think that you're going to like having Justin Fields as a option, because there's a lot of quarterbacks who are struggling right now. Joe Burrow's looked terrible, and he tweaked his calf. I would rather have Justin Fields right now going forward than Joe Burrow, for the simple fact of Fields is healthy, right? He uses his legs and he's healthy. Joe Burrow's arm hasn't looked right. He's not driving through passes very well. He has zero mobility in the pocket, and he wasn't a running quarterback by any stretch, but he was mobile enough to shift the pocket and move around a little bit to help create himself some space. He's not doing that right now. So, the offensive line is playing okay in Cincinnati, but, it's clear Burrow missed training camp, right? It is absolutely clear. So right now, I would take Fields over Burrow going forward.
Yeah, and when you're looking at it too, right? Like, you're talking a lot about like what made Justin Fields successful, right? You already said it, the legs. I believe when I was looking through some statistics earlier, there's been 2 designed run plays for Justin Fields all season long, right? Like, this is some egregious play calling going on in Chicago, where you're trying to force him into throwing the ball, dropping back there and trying to play elite pocket passing type of quarterback. And you're eliminating a lot of what makes him dynamic, right? Like, we thought we had this thing figured out last year when Chicago started off trying to do the same thing. And then all of a sudden they realized that, oh my gosh, we've got a guy that is absolutely electric and dynamic at the quarterback position. And, letting him use talents that nobody else, I guess realistically, 3, maybe 4 other teams in the league have the ability to contend with. Like, no, the Chicago play calling is as much to do with Justin Fields' decline for fantasy purposes this year as anything that Justin Fields is doing, right? Like, this is one of those that, right, Kevin brought up the Friday show. I took Justin Fields to go over his passing prop in on that game against Tampa Bay, and he hit it. And he hit it early too, right? Like, it's so much so to the point that he's not. Anyway, there's a lot of things going on there, but the fact is that it's not all on Justin Fields there, and there is a lot of things that the coaching staff there needs to figure out, and how to unlock what his potential truly is there. And one of those that, when you have one of the best dual threat guys there and you allow him to be dual threat, it'll come around there. So I think Kevin has that thing right, where it says, saying that this will get right quicker than it won't. And I think that he is a fantastic option. And I do like that thought there, because you're going to see somebody decide to, rage drop or rage trade rather quickly. And at that point, he's definitely a buy low candidate for me on that one. So I would absolutely, make a trade and go out there and do that. Right. Because right. So, like, put yourself in that shoes. you set the bar on that self. If somebody sent you a trade offer for Justin Fields, where would you take that?
2 sacks of potatoes at this point.
No Baker Mayfield?
This dude. I'm so done with him. Here's the problem. I've got Jared Goff on my bench in this league, and Jared Goff has put up really good numbers, and especially last week, a really, really good performance that he had. I like the safety, and the problem is it's not just the safety. It's the fact he's outscoring him. His ceiling has been higher at this point. So, like, that's what is frustrating. And I know I'm not alone in Fields' ownership.
So if you want to trade him, right, if you're looking to trade him, ideally what you want a Kirk Cousins, you want a Geno Smith, you want something like probably one of those two, honestly, and a piece. Right? Like, pick your area of weakness. Is it running back? Is it wide receiver? Hell, is it tight end? Right? And kind of look through that and get yourself, because that name power alone will help you. I mean, you might even be able to do it for Trevor Lawrence and a piece, right? Running all the way up the ladder, because Lawrence just had a bad game and the world is ending. And we're so, close-minded and week to week. So you can capitalize on it. Hey, you want Fields? Let's see what people say. I mean, that's what I'd be if you're really wanting to trade him. That's kind of what I'm doing. I want that and a piece, but I'm not dropping him. Start Goff. That's fun. So see what happens and kind of go from there. They got a tougher matchup against Kansas City, so I think he's going to be using his legs a bit more. Kansas City is stronger in the back end than Tampa Bay is. And they're going to be able to put some pressure on him. So I think you're naturally going to see Fields out of the pocket a little bit more against Kansas City. It may not be the top 5 finish or the top 6 finish like you want where you drafted him, but I think you're going to see his legs start to play here this week in Kansas City, and then probably the following week against Denver, just because you can pretty much do anything you want against that defense right now, and you're going to get it.
Yep. Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you for the therapy session.
We'll talk you off the ledge anytime, brother.
Yeah. And I don't know. Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network. Have you seen have you heard of the gentleman, Tom Pelissero? Have you heard of him? Have you heard his latest reporting that he had this afternoon?
No.
Quit playing coy and just quit teasing my emotions here.
There's a meeting scheduled between a team that has an immediate need at running back and a former player who used to play for said team that is looking for a job.
I've seen Hunt and the Browns. There's a reason that the Browns went, we can move on from this guy and be all right. They felt pretty comfortable that Jerome Ford was their guy there, and would rather have him there than Kareem Hunt. So even if Kareem Hunt comes back, I don't see him eating into Jerome Ford's workload. I see him playing
the Jerome Ford
role, which it still gets you 10-ish opportunities a week in that thing, which if it's passing work, great. Like Jaylen Warren's a guy that's showing that you can get 6 receptions out of the backfield as a running back and finish inside the top 24th position. It's just kind of where the running back position's at. But yeah, I wouldn't be that concerned about that one there. If there was a different, some different folks out there that were making that deal, Cam Akers got traded there, then I might be a little bit more concerned for Jerome Ford on the waiver wire. But that's just kind of where my thoughts are there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
What else you got, Alex?
That's it. That's all. Yep. That's all I got.
Well, I tell you what.
Get into the rest of the show.
Well, I tell you what. There's a lot of folks in the chat and watching right now that do have some questions, some comments, things out there. So let's hit that up, and then we're gonna go ahead and get rocking and rolling. We've got a little bit of waiver wire to talk about. We've got the Pine and Shine recap to hit up there. We've got Thursday night to cover, and we've got the Pine and Shine for week 3 to rock and roll there as well. So let's start with the comments. And again, guys, if you guys got questions, you got comments, you got concerns, throw them out there. Let's talk about them. Let's help you out. And let's get you guys ready to rock and roll, pick up those dubs for week 3. Mr. COD Reaper, good to see you back in the chat there. He's got Watson, Mostert, Brian Robinson, DK Metcalf, Judy, You got Gerald Everett, Higgins, and on the bench he's got Lawrence, Algier, James Cook, Jamal Williams, Nico Collins, Jacoby Myers. Any changes needed on that one?
I'm playing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Derek.
No, I was going to say I'd throw Nico Collins in over Judy is about where I'm at.
Cosign. I would go Nico Collins over Judy, and I would go Trevor Lawrence over Deshaun Watson.
Yep, agree with that. And I would. You can take it as you feel on that one. I might throw James Cook in over Mostert, but I think Mostert has a very good week this week. So it's a coin flip on me between Mostert and James Cook. I wouldn't fight you either way on that one.
Yeah, if Cook's going to see 6 receptions again, I think that PPR ability kind of gets you there. Yeah, I mean, I could lean either way on Cook or Mostert for sure. Especially, I think the Dolphins, like I said, are just going to air it out against the Broncos. Like, I think this is a get-right game for Jalen Waddle. I think Tua is going to be looking amazing. So just one of those things. So I would play Lawrence over Deshaun Watson. I've not liked the way that Watson looked the first couple weeks, and I completely agree with Derek. The way that Nico Collins has played the first 2 weeks and kind of been that alpha, right, for CJ Stroud, I would play Nico Collins over Judy because the opportunities are going to be there, and he's not trying to recover from an injury. Yes, Judy's one more week back, but
it's a hamstring, and we've seen what those look like. So
yeah. Food for thought, right? Just for Mr. COD Reaper here. If Jamal Williams misses the game, I would, if you can move him because he has the out designation, if you can move him to your IR spot, I would move him to your IR spot. I would pick up Hunter Henry as a sneaky tight end play.
Yep.
And play him over Gerald Everett this week.
Bingo. I like that thought there as well. His matchup is Mahomes, James Conner, ETN, Gabe Davis, CeeDee Lamb, Evan Ingram, Pacheco. Benches Mayfield, Hopkins, Juju, Komet, Njoku, Waller.
Yeah,
I'd feel pretty good about this matchup.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, Mahomes is going to have a game, right?
Yep.
Mahomes is going to have a game against Chicago. They're terrible against the pass, so I think this is kind of a get-right game for a lot of the Kansas City players. I think they're going to finally be able to put some points up on the board and get into a flow here. But Connor, it's going up against the Cowboys, but he's the show in town there for Arizona, so there's no reason to not do that. ETN has a plus matchup. Gabe Davis, he emerged a little bit last week against the Raiders, so you got to like what you saw to Gabe Davis, and obviously Lamb. But it's a solid roster, but I think I like your chances. I'd say, having no idea what the score is, I'd say you're, +8 or minus 8 point. You're an 8-point favorite. How about that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, and Mr. COD Reaper did send us the message earlier today that he did pick up the W in week 2. So he's 2-0 and rocking and rolling. Liking that very much for you, Mr. COD Reaper. He also said prayers for Nick Chubbs and that knee injury.
That's right.
Ashley in the comments here. I think this is the first time I've seen Ashley tune in here. Andrew for Musgrave. I have Andrews. I am absolutely not trading. I'm assuming that's Mark Andrews for Luke Musgrave, and the answer is unequivocally Mark Andrews is the guy on that side of the trade.
Yeah, you want to keep Mark Andrews on your side. Him and Zay Flowers are clearly the best and most consistent options that Lamar Jackson is going to have this season. And Andrews got in the end zone, right? His first week back after missing week 1. I think you keep riding that, and Andrews is going to be your guy.
Yep. Should I start Najee Harris over Breece Hall this week? Oh, it continues on. I have top waiver pick. My RBs are Harris, Hall, Kyron Williams, Herbert. Should I take Ford or Moss?
At top waiver pick, you're taking Ford.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think I do start Hall over Najee this week, right? Like I haven't loved Najee's explosiveness, right? Teams are still stacking the box against the Steelers. Jaylen Warren's a little bit shiftier, right? So he's been able to kind of break out from some of that.
Because Kenny has shown that he can throw the football anywhere. So teams
71
can't.
yards to George Pickens, baby.
Oh, remember what you were saying about the 3 plays?
Yes, but when
They
Pickens
pull out
is on your
wins.
roster, that's all you need. So, but yes, so I would start Brees Hall over Najee.
Yeah. No, this is the week though for Najee. Like I'm looking at it and just kind of going, this is the week for Najee that if he's going to get right, this is the get right week. He's playing the Raiders. The Raiders are give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Like points are not at a premium against the Raiders. If you're a running back, they give up about 20% more points to that position than the league average there. So if he's going to do something, it's going to come this week. And if it doesn't come this week, I'd be looking to try and flip Najee and see what I could try and get out of that one there, and hope that
out of him.
and hope that the name power holds through on somebody that wasn't paying attention this season. So that's kind of where I'm at there, Terrence. Any other thoughts on this?
Chubb owner,
right?
Yeah,
If you're looking to flip Najee, I'm calling the Nick Chubb owner. Say, okay, here I got your running back. Like, what are you going to give up for?
What are you going to give me?
Right. I like it. Terrence saying, is Garrett Wilson a must start against the Patriots? Garrett Wilson's still a top 20 wide receiver for me, week in, week out. So
I think he's still a must start, and I don't know that it really matters who's going up against, because Zach Wilson's going to look for him, right? Like that's a thing. So I think
we saw
he's
Wilson
just set it and forget it.
Right. And we saw Wilson put up numbers with Zach Wilson last year.
Yeah.
He won offensive rookie of the year with Zach Wilson.
This is not a foreign matchup for us. We've seen what this looks like. Sometimes it's ugly, right? Sometimes it is ugly, but it wasn't pretty against the Cowboys, but he got you there, right? That 68-yard touchdown got you there. And Garrett Wilson is dynamic enough that he's able to make a guy miss, get behind the defense once, and it's one big play, and boom, you're there. So, yes, I'm not benching Garrett Wilson for anybody in that range or below just because of Zach Wilson. I'm going to let it fly.
Right. The only way that I'm benching him, I'm just trying to think of how rosters would be constructed, is, if I got a guy like, maybe if I got Nico Collins late, maybe if I picked up Puka Nacua off of the waiver wire, like maybe those are guys that I might sneak in there. But Garrett Wilson has now delivered you in week 1, wide receiver 22, wide receiver 17.5 point PPR scoring. Like, this is a guy that you plug in and he's getting you a very consistent wide receiver 2. I get it. You drafted him to be wide receiver 1, but you've got some other options there. And
those weeks will come too.
Yes.
Right. I mean, those weeks will come too. He's not finishing outside the top. Like Derek said, he's not finishing outside the top 30. He's definitely not finishing outside the top 50.
No.
He is still hyper targeted. Yes, the Jets are going to be more run-based than what they were going to be before because they're going to protect Zach Wilson, but I think that opens up the play action and actually helps Garrett with a lesser quarterback. So ride it, man. There's no sense in not to, unless you get blown away by some offer, then maybe think about it. Other than that, he's in your lineup.
Right. Because I'm just trying to picture that through. Maybe if I've got Keenan Allen, maybe if I've got some combination where I feel better about the upside and still give me the safe floor that Garrett Wilson does. Like, there's potentials out there for that, but yeah, he's a guy you got to plug in there and rock and roll. The fantasy coach is chiming in saying Dolphins. We know that Coach Steve over there is a Dolphins fan, so have to rub that one in, Coach Steve. Thanks a lot. All right, Ashley saying yes, it is Mark Andrews over there, and they're saying that Mark Andrews stays. Yep, absolutely. You want to keep Mark Andrews on that bench, especially for Luke Musgrave. Like, whoever sent you that trade offer was not dealing in good faith with you.
Reply to that trade offer and ask for their quarterback for your kicker.
You ask them politely but firmly to leave.
That's the type of offer you send in return. No, but I'll give you my kicker for Patrick Mahomes.
What if somebody wants their steak well done? We ask them politely but firmly.
That's
yes.
a throwback reference.
I love it. All right, and then Terrence saying that with Garrett Wilson, he drafted him as wide receiver 2, waiting on Kupp to return. Then he'll be playing between Cooper Kupp and Pickens. Yeah,
No, Amari Cooper.
Yeah,
oh,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
he's waiting for Kupp to get back to start Kupp and Wilson.
Yeah.
For now, he's going to be playing Matt. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
You can absolutely live with that.
And you've got enough running back depth off of what you sent us earlier that I think you'll be all right. That you can you don't necessarily have to play a wide receiver in that flex. You can balance one of those running backs in there to play it that way. So, Alrighty, guys, that's going to take us to what we've got in the chat so far. Again, guys, if you got any thoughts, questions out there, throw them out there. Let's talk about them. Let's help you out with your fantasy rosters. And let's go ahead and get rocking and rolling into the waiver wire. You can get, kind of our deeper thoughts here on the waiver wire. We put some videos out there across all of our socials, waiver wire for quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, wide receivers, that kind of stuff. But let's go ahead and just kind of rock and roll through here real quick when we're talking waiver wire for the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. Any thoughts out there that you guys want to hit up on for waiver wire?
There's tons, right?
Right.
I guess running back is kind of where the hot button start is, right? So Saquon's going to be out a couple weeks. Nick Chubb out for the season. So Jerome Ford is the top running back. Stefanski came out, said he is going to be our main guy going forward. This is why you don't blow number one waiver priority in the first week. Yep. So this is the guy that you're going after right here. So if you happen to be a Chubb owner and you have number one waiver priority, then great. Yes, you'll see a slight drop off, but you will get to make up for a lot of that because of the volume that Jerome Ford will see. If you're not a Chubb owner, congratulations. You get to stash this guy if that's what you want to do. Chances are, if you're number one, you need the help anyway. But this is clearly your number one. Number two, Matt Breida, right, for a couple weeks here while Saquon's out. And if those options are gone and you're still hurting at running back, take a flyer or take a look at Tony Jones Jr. down in New Orleans. Yeah. I know a lot of people are thinking Kendre Miller is just going to kind of step in and do that. A, that's not what his body type is, right? That's not how he's formed. B, he's coming off an injury, right? So the Saints aren't looking to use and abuse him right away. They're looking for a 2-week floater until they get Kamara back, right? And once Kamara comes back in the fold, then I think Kendre Miller actually becomes a thing because of how those two will kind of balance each other out, and you can use them as a 1-2 punch. But I think those are kind of your top 3 running back options in a week where we lost 2 really good running backs and a tight end machine in Jamal Williams.
Right.
Yeah, I'll touch on a couple of the wideouts that I think are worth. If Nico Collins is still available, we saw him have a great week. It looks like there's some connection there between CJ Stroud and Nico Collins. That was a really nice thing. I tell you, another one is Tank Dell as well. Another Houston wide receiver. It feels like, rightfully so, right? We weren't targeting Houston receivers because we didn't exactly know what CJ Stroud was going to be. So you weren't going to waste draft picks on Houston wideouts. So there's 2 there. And I'll throw a third one at you. Let's go Tutu Atwell there with the Rams. Puka Nacua is like freaking fantasy darling. Nobody had ever heard of this dude. Now he's on every roster. He's got to be 100% rostered at this point. But Tutu Atwell is another option as the Rams try to figure out life without Cooper Kupp here. And look, we all think that Cooper Kupp is going to come back after his mandatory IR stint. Does anybody know that that's going to happen?
No, there's been no
right.
Exactly. So
about Cooper Kupp right now.
So I mean, better to be prepared and not need it than to find yourself just still waiting for Cooper Kupp to come back and he's not there.
Right. And Alex, I may have mentioned, did you mention Rashid Shaheed?
I did not, but that's another great one down there in New Orleans.
Yeah.
He's for the slide.
Right, he's available in about 60% of leagues out there. There is kind of that note of caution though with Shaheed. While he has produced some great games, it is highly hyper efficient right now. So
Yeah.
if some of those fall off there, that could be a little bit. And then Hunter Henry, guy in the tight end room, right? Like
Yep.
guys secretly and quietly gotten himself into tight end 2 through 2 weeks. Both weeks putting up monster weeks, 14 points on average and half point PPR scoring. He is a guy that you need to be moving up here. This could be the late round tight end when we look up at the end of the season and go, yep, that's the guy that nobody took, or you took with the last pick on your tight end type of thing, and he ends up in the top 5. So very well could be that guy this year.
And especially this week going up against a Jets defense that is not particularly great against the pass. They're in the bottom half of the league in terms of pass defense. So could be something, look, Mac Jones isn't a world beater by himself, but he at least throws the football to Hunter Henry, and that's worth something.
Right. It's like he's playing in a Bill O'Brien offense that he really likes throwing the ball to the tight end.
Yeah,
it's weird. It's weird how that happens. So, all right, I like it. Any other thoughts here on the waiver wire? Okay.
Nah.
All right, couple of questions coming in here as well. COD Reaper saying Hunter Henry's already picked up, tried to put Williams in the IR, no go. Should he drop Gerald Everett for Ertz, Gesicki, Cade Otton, or Laporta is still available? I am not dropping Gerald Everett for Gesicki or Otton. You could potentially talk me into Ertz or Laporta on that one.
That's actually really funny because there are 2 names there in my pine and shine this week. That's a tease for later. So Mr. COD, you'll have to stick around for my thoughts on this question.
Kevin, what do you think? Would you drop Everett for Ertz or Laporta?
No.
For the record, I don't think I would drop.
No, I really. Well, so Williams won't be able to go here today, right? Like you're going to have to hope that someone floats through waivers. Williams won't go on that designation probably Thursday, Friday at the absolute earliest, possibly Saturday, maybe even Sunday morning, right? 90 minutes before game time. So You're going to have to be patient on being able to put Williams in that spot because right now he's just listed as questionable.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has to have the official out designation for you to possibly be able to do that, depending on how your league is set up. Then that's where you would make that move. You're not going to be able to do it to run through waivers, but I'm willing to bet that Laporta will be there.
Mm-hmm.
Based off of kind of how we've seen your waiver wires and what you guys have had out there in free agency in that league, bud. So I think I just sit tight for now, right? Like if you're gonna go after anything, I mean, if you want to take a stab at Ford, then you could drop, and maybe that's the right call. You drop Jamal Williams and you go after Jerome Ford,
right?
Because Jamal Williams, he's going to have a lesser role once Kamara's back anyway. Ford steps into a primary role, so maybe that's kind of the true direction for you is try and pick up Jerome Ford first. If someone else has higher priority with you being 2-0, if they're paying attention, he might get grabbed. And if he does, that's okay. Then you wait to see what the Williams designation is, and then you can pivot to tight end, and you can play kind of matchups here for the week, and we can look at Laporta or Everett.
Right. Yeah, Everett or Ertz is a guy that I don't mind out there just from a standpoint. He's averaging about 9 targets a game, so he's getting the volume there. Tougher matchup against Dallas, followed up with San Francisco, so 2 tough matchups that it's going to be tough to rock and roll that one. So I subscribe to what Kevin is saying there. Terrence saying that he is 2-0 in a must-win week. He's starting Lawrence, Najee, Kyron Williams, Garrett Wilson, Cooper, and Pickens, the Ravens, and the San Francisco kicker, going up against either Geno or Cousins. If your guy's paying attention, you're going up against Cousins.
Uh-huh.
Henry, Jacobs, Smith, McLaurin, Andrews, the Bengals defense, and the Cincinnati kicker. Battle of 2-0. Who is going to win there?
0-2s.
Yeah, 0-2. Sorry.
The winless war. Terrence.
Go back to the first one, Derek. There you go. Lawrence, Najee, Kyron.
This is like the biggest coin flip ever.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty.
So I think Derrick Henry, again, I'll talk about this later. Derrick Henry, I think, has a down week. McLaurin's going to have it tough going against the Bills. The good thing is they're at home, but the Bills' defense is still the Bills' defense. It's kind of a wash at that point.
I think your opponent has a slight edge based off of how I'm seeing it. I don't think it's a whole lot, but Najee's kind of the wild card.
Right.
If Najee's able to have the game that we think he can have against the Raiders and kind of get off this schneid, I think that's kind of your difference maker. If Najee struggles again, I think we're going to be struggle busting here a little bit. So, Terrence, you are one of those guys. Definitely grab Jerome Ford.
Yep.
Like help you, because then you can take care of Ford, and then you don't have to feel like you're saddled with Najee every week.
Right. So, Terrence was asking who's a player he could possibly on the waivers that's worth a stash, trying to get ahead of the curve. Yeah, I would stick with Jerome Ford, trying to balance that one out there. Any other thoughts there on who we could be trying to get out ahead of the curve on? I mean, maybe Justice Hill. That could potentially be a guy to try and get out ahead of the curve. Roschon Johnson, potentially a guy to get out ahead of the curve on. Kendrick Bourne, potentially, right? Like, I think Kendrick Bourne will have a bounce back week here as well. But I don't know that I'm necessarily dropping a lot of those guys that I've seen on your roster to go after any of those guys that are really mentioned outside of the Jerome Ford move.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Alrighty. Terry saying that he was telling us all about Jerome Ford. Went the Jerome Ford route and dropped Antonio Gibson. Next up,
wish I'd have listened to you, Terry. Wish I'd have listened to you.
Next up, he says get Zamir White on your teams. So, yeah, you never know if Josh Jacobs goes down. Zamir White is that guy out there in Vegas for sure. And then Mr. COD Raper is saying that Ford is taken in his league.
Playing Terry's league?
No, in COD's league.
I know, but is he playing in Terry's league?
Yeah, he very well might be. We got everybody from the same league asking advice on the deal. That'd be
something.
That league you're in, man, has the craziest group of free agents, though.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do, right? We'll take a peek at everything. We got it pulled up here. So see what we can do and give you some ideas on who to go after.
Yeah, we'll kind of keep rocking and rolling through it and come back to that one there. All right, guys, heading over into the Pine and the Shine. Yep. What do you got?
Never mind. We're good.
Okay. Heading into the Pine and Shine recap here for week 2. Alex, you were rolling with the Pines of Kyron Williams, Garrett Wilson, Juwan Johnson. Kevin, you were rocking Khalil Herbert, Terry McLaurin, George Kittle, and I was rocking the Pines of Alexander Madison, T. Higgins, Mark Andrews on that one. Kind of a mixed bag here.
Hold on, I'm going to pause. Reaper, just reply in the chat. Is Kyron Williams still out there on your waiver wire? And the only reason I'm asking that is last week when we got those messenger picks, I found him on there. So just a guy to look for, knowing that he's kind of the show in town here with Cam Akers being back in the doghouse and the ever-revolving door of, on again, off again love between Sean McVay and Cam Akers.
Right. Yeah, that's something else there.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. So anyway, we had the Pine and Shine recap there. Some hits, some misses on that one. Anything that you guys want to recap or highlight here for the Pine and Shine recap from last week?
I would like to point out that the person who came up with this outlandish scoring system that did not seek any input from the other two co-hosts of the podcast has zoomed into the lead somehow. Keep in mind, he is also the one in charge of counting. So, like, I don't know. It's just some fishy stuff happening, I feel like.
Kevin, you know what I just heard? I just heard
here.
Alec volunteer to do the update on that, keep track of everything, all of that.
I'm good. I'm just saying, like.
I'm just saying that's what I heard you say when you were going through all that. Because you were volunteering.
Look, I know that you got your business degree from a prestigious university, but let's be real, they just hand those things out. So, like,
oh, like candy. Oh, anyway, Alex is talking about the fact that I had 3 massive hits and some washes out there. Massive hits being the Alexander Pine call, where he was projected ranked 17th with a projected point total of 12. He finished up running back 51 on the week with total points of 3.4, which in the scoring system get 43.4 points on this thing, because it's all the difference between projections and that. And then also managed to hit both Zach Moss and Puka Nacua for the Shines, and both of them having massive weeks where they were ranked around 50 and finished in single digits.
So I was wrong about Kyron Williams. I will own that one. I was very wrong about Kyron Williams. But I was pretty correct about Garrett Wilson-ish.
It was about a push.
Yeah, I was just in push territory. And then I was way right about Juwan Johnson, who got hurt. But, like, whatever. I was still right about it. I was very right about Brian Robinson, who finished with who was projected RB29 and finished RB1. So that was a nice win. Very incorrect about Michael Pittman, and I knew it was a pipe dream when I made it, because I was trying to will it into existence, but Dallas Goedert still has not shown up this year for the Eagles offense.
Right.
So that's what did me in.
Kevin, anybody you want to highlight on your Pines and Shines from last week on the recap?
No, I mean, it was okay, right? McLaurin was kind of a wash. Herbert didn't do anything against Tampa Bay, just kind of like we thought. Kittle, subpar week there. So that kind of at least started to set me up. But I felt okay about it. It wasn't the great week that you had, Derek, but overall it was a plus week, right? I mean, my picks weren't as right as yours were when you talk about how we're scoring it and the discrepancy, but nevertheless, we're talking, in DFS status, my picks were right. They were guys that you wanted to avoid.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you did a great job when you were doing that, right? Like, because the goal is to basically get positive correlation on it, and you were very positive on that one. I just took some big swings and managed to connect on a couple of those, because on the flip side, if one of those that if Alexander Madison does what he's supposed to do, like that drastically changes, or if Zach Moss and Puka Nacua don't both go off, like that's one of those that big week becomes a ho-hum week. And the Luke Musgrave washed out a lot for me, and the T. Higgins washed out a lot for me, right? Like, I took a big miss on the T. Higgins call for the Pine there. And so that was a big negative correlation for me. Same thing with the Luke Musgrave. I just happened to have a couple of the calls that were a little bit bigger on those. So
yeah, I was extremely disappointed with AJ Dillon.
Yes,
extremely, right? Like, you're in a situation, and I didn't see any of that game, right? I was driving, I was listening to part of it, but I was driving down to the stadium to watch the Bronco game, so I haven't been able to go back and watch it. But I'm really disappointed, right? You're the only show in town. Like, you still have not necessarily a young, but an inexperienced quarterback. Like, help him out a little bit, start running the ball, and it it definitely did not fly that way. A.J. Dillon had a very tough game against the Falcons, and I was quite disappointed with him being the main guy.
Right. I would agree. All righty.
In fairness, the Packers really didn't have the ball in that game. They ran 46 plays. Atlanta ran the ball 45 times. Just ran the ball 45 times. They had 45 rushing plays to Green Bay's 46 total plays run. So
right.
That's a rough. It's just like a rough. It was a weird game because it ended up only being 1 point. But yeah, Atlanta. I'm trying to find the time of possession here, and if you'll just let me stall for a second. Atlanta had the ball for 36 minutes and 15 seconds to Green Bay's 23:45. So,
and it was one of those two that
Atlanta kept the ball away from.
Right. Well, it was one of those two that watching that game, it seemed like Green Bay kind of took the ball over in short field positions, things like that as well. So there weren't necessarily a ton of opportunity to put together long sustained drives either. So, all righty. Any other thoughts here on Pine Shine? We ready to move on?
Move it.
All right. Let's hit up the questions, the comments here again, and then we'll hit up the Thursday night game. And then, Kevin, I did see that that Mr. COD sent us a messenger.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now. We'll hit you up after the show, buddy.
Okay. All right. Isaac over on YouTube saying it needs some help. We'll help you out here. Should I use my waiver wire number 2 for Williams? It's a PPR 10-person league. Saquon, Aaron Jones, Kenneth Walker, Miles Sanders, A.J. Dillon, all as the running backs for them. I
say yes. You're dealing with a Saquon injury, a Jones injury. I say yes.
Yeah, I don't know that I disagree, right? Jones is dinged up. Saquon's out for the next couple of weeks. A.J. Dillon was not, overly effective. So I think I do, right? Again, Kyron Williams is going to be the workhorse, right? Sean McVay loves his single running back system, and Cam Akers clearly did not like the split carry after whether he thought he was promised or guaranteed or alluded to whatever volume, and then got himself in the doghouse again. So I think I do this, right? Because you don't know if the Saquon or Aaron Jones injuries will linger.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, you could do that and quite frankly drop A.J. Dillon and call it good.
Yeah. All right. That's a unanimous. We'll I'm going to co-sign on both of that as well. I like it. All righty. Ajeezy 20 on YouTube, 2-0, but I think you need to upgrade at running back. They've got Gibbs, Monty, Rashad White, Zach Charbonnet, and Warren. Wide receivers are Tyreek, Olave, Keenan, DJ, Puka, Addison. Who would you move to upgrade at running back, and who should I target? 3 wide receiver PPR format. So you got to start 3. I like that. I like that that wide receiver room for sure.
That wide receiver room is stout, right?
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You can start 4, right? The flex spot. You're playing Tyreek, Olave, Allen, and Puka right now. So you're starting 4 of those receivers. I like that roster. I don't know that I'm necessarily looking to move any of them unless I'm getting fair compensation. So Addison, or if you have someone who likes Addison and you can pick something else up as a fill-in, I say fill-in or a suitable piece, maybe Rashad White. And honestly, I'd wait until after this week because White's going to have a stinker going up against Philly. So I would wait for Rashad White to have a stinker and maybe see if you can flip Addison for him or maybe DJ for him.
He's already got Rashad White. He's got Gibbs, Monty, White,
right,
Charbonnet.
Sorry. Oh, good. Then never mind. Then
sorry.
Ajeezy, who's the other running back that the the Kenneth Walker manager has. Like that would be something to look at there. See if you could maybe trade Charbonnet and Addison and potentially get an upgrade, because you're sending off a handcuff there with a wide receiver that's kind of emerging.
You might be able to do Addison for like Javonte Williams, right? Just
Right.
a guy that you know is going to see volume based off of what we've seen out of Denver. Some weeks are going to be better than others, but if you're looking for a filler with a fairly safe floor, the touches are going to be there for Javonte. Addison might be able to do that. And then
you gotta like that Gibbs is going to take a more of a prominent role with Montgomery.
I don't think so.
I'm not signing off on that.
They already moved Bam
Knight
back up to the and signed him to the active roster today. And Bam Wright kind of fills in that thumper role between the tackles type of thing. So one of those, I think Gibbs does see more run and he does see more snap count there, but it wouldn't surprise me that Bam gets a decent amount of workload with this. And Monty, could be one of those that he's out one game, could be that he's out a couple of games. So it's very much a depends type of thing there.
So yeah, maybe a James Cook, right? Something else.
I wouldn't go after the Najee move, but
I mean,
if you want Najee, this is the time to make the move for him, though.
I don't know that I would
and
go
the thing
after
is, you
either.
have Warren, right? So if one of them go, you now handcuff that Pittsburgh backfield, which isn't the greatest handcuff in the world, but Addison for Najee isn't terrible, like especially with the wide receiver core that you have. This is why you can make that move. Is you can flip Addison. I would not go with Madison. Like as bad as Najee's been, I have zero faith in Alexander Madison, so I would lean the Najee route. I know it might feel a little sour because Addison's kind of coming on there, but he's not going to start over any of those guys. So you either keep Addison around and you continue to roll 4 wide receivers and you just work through the bye weeks with the guys that you have, or because you have 5 wide receivers on there already, and Addison would be the 6th or 5th, depending on the week. You bite the bullet, you flip Addison, you get a running back and call it good. It might take Addison and Jalen Warren, and maybe you get a Josh Jacobs. That's a possibility. Or maybe you wait one more week and kind of see if there's news that breaks on Jonathan Taylor. And maybe you go Addison for Jonathan Taylor. I don't know if that owner is going to do that, right? It's kind of a reach on name power, but there's just some different options out there. I don't think you need to force a move.
I agree. Super C&B challengers, trade away Miles Sanders and Olave for Chase, full PPR. No. Not even entertaining that one. Just flat out no.
No. Chase will get better, right? He has not been very strong to start the season, but I'm not giving up 2 starters for Jamar Chase right now. I'm not doing that. Olave has been playing extremely well here the first couple weeks. Miles Sanders clearly has a stronghold on that backfield. You're better off keeping those 2 than the upside Chase can give you right now with a banged up Joe Burrow.
Right. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. Isaac was saying the only concern about using waiver wire 2 on Williams when it might be weak at wide receiver. They have Waddle, CD, Mike Evans, Michael Thomas. You're not weak at wide receiver.
You are not weak at wide receiver.
No. The
Waddle, CD, Evans will get you through this season. You can absolutely do that. Waddle's going to have a massive week this week. Like this is my Jalen Waddle call out week. So start Waddle and CD in confidence. If you need to throw Mike Evans in your flex spot, the first 2 weeks of the season have proven you can do that and get a good return. So I don't think you're weak at receiver at all.
Yeah. Yep. Not going to surprise me. Look up and you've got at least 1 wide receiver 1, potentially 2 wide receiver 1s and a top end wide receiver 2. Like you have 3 guys that should probably finish. All 3 of those guys should finish within the top 15 when the season's done. Would be my thoughts here. All right, let's go ahead and move on into the Thursday night game here, week 3, Thursday night football. We've got the New York Giants taking on the San Francisco 49ers. The line on this one, San Francisco favored by 10.5, over under 44.5. Thoughts on this one?
I'm taking San Francisco to cover the 10.5. The line has fallen in some places to 10 already. I like that even more. But I'm taking San Francisco to cover. And I'm going to say the under for this Thursday night game. I think scoring is going to be a little bit lower, and I think San Francisco's defense is going to handle the Giants pretty easily. So there's not going to be a need for them to push a bunch of points. We're going to see a lot of run game this week out of the 49ers, I think.
The Niners, in their last 10 games as a favorite, they're 8-2 against the spread. Brock Purdy is 8-2 against the spread. Their previous 15 home games, they are 13-2 against the spread. I initially took the Giants to cover. 10.5 is a big number, and then when I went looking around, and then I realized, oh yeah, Saquon's not going to play. Give me San Francisco minus the 10.5. It's a big number, but I think they take care of business.
And they started so slow, right? They played terribly the whole game against Dallas. They started extremely slow against Arizona.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones isn't going to have the room to run that he did against Arizona.
Yeah, and I don't think that the Niners team, much like that Dallas team, I don't think you can come back after a slow start offensively. I don't think you can come back like you could against Arizona in week 2 there. So yeah, give me the Niners minus 10.5. I'm gonna go with the over here. I think the Niners put on a show and try to do something that Dallas did to the Giants, and I think that's what they're going for here. And then my prop that I'm going to go for is, because I think the Niners run away with this one, the Giants will be caught chasing points. So I'll take Daniel Jones over 19.5 completions.
All righty. I'm going to jump on the bandwagon here and say San Francisco covers the 10.5 here. That, like you said, Alex, that is a big number here, and those are usually numbers that scare me away, because covering it by a full 2 possessions on that one, that's a tall task and a tall order to do. But I do think that this is one that we're going to see this one look up, and it's more of a case. I think we're going to see the Giants have a tough time even getting to double digits in the points on this one. So not going to surprise me if we look up and we see this thing 34-10 type of deal, 31-7 type of deal when it's all said and done. So I'm going to take San Francisco to go, I'm going to take San Francisco. I'm going to take the under on this one. One of the props I really liked, Brandon Ayuk coming off, banged up his shoulder a little bit here in the last matchup here. I think that they're going to maybe slow roll him a little bit more. He's got a receiving prop of 53.5 receiving yards. I'm going to go under on the receiving yards for Brandon Ayuk.
I'm going to take Christian McCaffrey over 13.5 yards for his longest reception of the night.
That's a fun one.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that one a lot.
Something a little different, right?
Yeah.
So I'm step out on that one. I'm going to take him to go over 13.5 for longest reception.
You could do that on the first play of the game, or you could be sitting there on play 55 of the game being like, come on, give me one. Give me a first down.
I have a feeling it's going to be a sweat, but it's going to be fun.
Just give me a first down. Come on, C-Mac.
Right. Alrighty, I like it. Alrighty, guys. Any other thoughts here on Thursday night?
No, I think this will be not a very great football game, particularly if you cheer for the team in blue and silver.
That's why it's on Amazon.
No. I'll still watch it. I mean,
well, yeah, I'm just saying none of the Amazon games have been good, so why are we going to start now?
Not to say that yes, the football games have not been great.
At least they don't have marquee players going down to injury on them like Monday.
Knock on wood, we haven't had a game on Amazon yet this year.
We have.
Yeah,
we had one last week. We had last week, which is what brings me to my next. That was the Eagles and who did the Eagles beat?
The
Vikings.
Thank you. Amazon's pregame and postgame
is one of the better ones in terms of a broadcast. It's one of the better ones out there. That's all I'll say about that. I just think it's enjoyable to watch and listen to.
All right, I like it. All righty, guys, let's go ahead and head on in here to the Pine and the Shine for week 3. And again, when we're talking Pines, we're talking Shines. Pines are guys that we think are going to miss their projections. Shines are guys that we think are going to go over their projections. We're going to start off here with the Pines here, and we're going to go running back, then the wide receivers, then the tight ends here. Let's go ahead and rock and roll. Alex, you are up.
All right. My week 3 Pine at running back will be Derrick Henry against Cleveland. Cleveland has been pretty stout against the run this year. They are 3rd in terms of yards per game given up, third fewest, behind only the Eagles and the Buccaneers. I think that they will do a good job of limiting and trying to make Ryan Tannehill beat them with his right arm and not allowing Derrick Henry to run roughshod. So I will take Derrick Henry as my Pine here for running backs in week 1.
For my running back week 1, I'm going to give you a 2-parter just so that way I can cover my bases.
It's week 1, and then I got you saying it too, Kevin. I'm sorry, it's
week
week 3. I said it, and then you got you saying it.
I'm gonna say Pine Austin Eckler. Right, coming off the injury, if he does play, right, he's listed as questionable. If he does suit up and go, I don't think he's going to see his first work or his full workload. I think that that first game back, you're always kind of worried about the retweaking and that anything could happen at any given moment. That's if he plays, right? And with the contract dispute and everything else, would it really surprise anybody if Eckler says, "Nah, I'm not good. Like, I'm not going to go." So we shall see about that one. If Eckler does not go, you are pining Jerome Ford this week. Yes, he is the waiver wire darling for the week. Yes, you want to grab him, but no, you do not want to play him against Tennessee's running defense because Cleveland is 3rd, Tennessee is 4th as far as rushing yards allowed this season. So it's going to be few and far between there on the ground. So I am shying away from Jerome Ford if Austin Eckler doesn't go.
Real quick, let's look up and see who Tennessee plays in week 4, because there's now an emerging trend here that Joshua Kelly was the waiver wire darling here after week 1, played Tennessee.
Oh, you're right. Oh,
and then there's a trend here. Somebody look that up real quick, and let's see what who we should be looking at here in actuality for next week on the waiver wire. Anyway,
gosh.
Yeah, that just happened.
It's terrible.
That is terrible. All righty. So my Pine for the week when it comes to the running back is a guy that's gotten off to a pretty decent start. He's ranked at running back 9 here going into week 3. Ramondre Stevenson going up against that tough New York Jets front on this one, projected to do about 14 fantasy points here. This is a guy I think is going to underperform when it's all said and done.
Okay, there we go. My Pine wide receiver. I'm gonna go DK Metcalf against Carolina. The Panthers haven't had a ton of bright spots. However, their pass defense is pretty darn good. So I will take DK to struggle against Carolina.
I am going to take I'm going to say Jamar Chase, right? The struggles are going to continue for one more week. Joe Burrow injury. I'm kind of hoping this is a little psych out, right? I have Jamar Chase in a couple leagues where I need him to show up for me, but I'm willing to take the gamble on it. I'm going to say I am not playing Jamar Chase this week.
Alex, that DK Metcalf one was really good because I didn't see that one in there, and I typed that one in, and I'll go, nope, Alex already got that one. So congratulations on the DK call. I really like it. Which means that I have to pivot here on the fly.
I did steal it from you. Oh, shoot.
You did, which means I got to pivot on the fly here. So those are always fun. But my pivot is going to be Mike Evans. coming off a couple of really great performances there. He's wide receiver 20 ranked this week, projected to do about 11.1, but he's up against that tough Philly defense here. And while I think that the Tampa Bay is going to have to probably throw the ball a little bit here to try and stay in this thing, I think Mike Evans is going to struggle here just a touch in week 3. All right, that's going to take us over to the tight ends.
I was going to give you a freebie there because Atlanta's pass defense is pretty stinking good too. So Amon-Ra St. Brown would have been a decent one. Anyways, I'm going to go for my tight end Pine. I'm going to take Gerald Everett against the Vikings. Yeah, I just don't think he finds the end zone. So tough week.
Okay, I'm going to say Pine TJ Hawkinson. I think he's had a great week last week against Philadelphia, but this is a new week, and the Chargers, for their, I guess, struggles against the pass, tight end has not necessarily been one of them. So Hawkinson's going to struggle a little bit, but Jefferson will feast.
Bad week for tight ends in that game, we say.
Right, I almost went to Justin Jefferson on the week 1 there, just because. Does he finally find the end zone? Like that's one thing kind of pulling him down there on some of those projections. But Darren Waller is the guy I'm going to go with here in week 4, going up against the San Francisco 49ers. He's currently the tight end 4 on the week, projected to do about 9.2 points. And this is one that I think he's going to struggle a little bit. A short week, right? He's been dealing with that injury. While he said it was, he felt good coming off of week 2, those short weeks can sometimes mess with that a little bit, plus tough defense. So I'm going to say Pine, Darren Waller. All right, that's going to move us into the shines here. And the shines of the guys we're looking at to see who's going to outperform their projections. Alex, go ahead and lead us off.
So the guy that I had on my Pine list last week is a guy that I'm putting on my shine list this week. And I'm going to go Kyren Williams here. I think he is the show, and he will continue to be the show.
All right. I'm going to say Tony Jones Jr. For the New Orleans Saints as my shine of the week. I know a lot of people think Miller is just going to kind of step into that role. Again, he's coming off of an injury. Jones showed really well against the Panthers. I don't think there's any reason that he's not going to see at least a decent run here for this week to see what he can do. And there's a lot of room for ceiling here, right? He's not on most people's radars. So I'm going to say that he's going to shine for you this week. We're going to get some positive points out of this one.
I like that call. I like that call a lot. Guy that I'm going to take Jaylen Warren. Going up against the Las Vegas Raiders, right? They're giving up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing running backs there, about 20% more than the average at that position. He's currently ranked running back 35 with about 8.2 projected points here. Not going to surprise me if we see him carry that and end up getting back up into like running back 2 type of finish here this week, all off of some PPR type of performances. Calling that deep shot there. Wide receivers.
All right, so this is a very interesting game because Kevin has taken a tight end from this game. I have taken a tight end from this game to Pine both, but I'm going to take a wide receiver from this game to shine, and that will be Jordan Addison from the Minnesota Vikings. I think that, first off, the Chargers' pass defense is brutal, and yes, a large part of that was week 1 against Miami, right? Like the Dolphins and mainly Tyreek Hill ran roughshod on them. But I think the Chargers will do enough to make sure that Justin Jefferson isn't the one that beats them, that it opens it up for Jordan Addison because they know that they are bad. They know that they need to stop Justin Jefferson. I think that opens things up for Jordan Addison. So I have Addison shining this week.
I'm going with Jalen Waddle, right? I've pumped up this Miami team on and off throughout the entire show. Told you this is the Waddle breakout week. Like I'm putting my money where my mouth is here on the show. Jalen Warren, shine of the week. He is absolutely going to go ham against the Denver Broncos on Sunday. Coach Steve, hope you're happy.
I like that call. As far as my wide receiver goes, I'm going to take one of the guys that we had as a sleeper preseason type of deal, and he's definitely kind of showing up here in a couple of weeks. I think that trend continues here. Romeo Doubs, currently ranked wide receiver 42 on the week. I think that he's going to outshine that projection, and he's only projected to do about 7.9. This is a guy I think will get to double digits on the week and will outshine that wide receiver 42. Let's go ahead and move on to the tight ends.
My tight end this week is Kate Otten to shine going up against Philly. I think he finds the end zone. I think that's enough to get him into tight end 1 territory.
Fair enough. My shine this week is going to be Mark Henry. I'm believing the hype, right? Tight end 2 right now, going up, and the Patriots going up against a tough Jets defense, right? There's going to be a lot of pressure in Mac Jones' face. And
say the name again.
Hunter Henry?
Yeah, you said Mark Henry, who would be hilarious if he lined up at tight end for the Patriots.
Oh my goodness, I don't know where I was getting that. I apologize. Hunter Henry. But yeah, this Jets defense is going to try and get after Mac Jones. It's going to create a lot of short, quick passes. With that, he is already the most efficient receiver that the Patriots have had this year. Kendrick Bourne is a close second there, but I think Henry's going to have a big, big day against the Jets because I don't know that Mac Jones is going to have time to get it to anybody else.
Yeah, I like that one. Like that was one that I was doing the typing, and very much like Alex's DK call. I sat there and started typing the Hunter Henry, and I looked up and I went, nope, it's already off the board. Kevin's got that one. So I like that one a lot. I'm going to go and pivot a little bit to Evan Ingram, who's currently tight end number 7 on the week ranked, projected to do about 8.1 points. He's going up against Houston. Houston is a very favorable matchup when you're talking tight ends and the points that they allow there. So I'm going to rock and roll against the Houston Texans on this one and slate in Evan Ingram to be my shine for the tight end. Any other thoughts for the Pine and Shine week 3?
It should be another fun week because we get 4 primetime games, right? Nationally televised, if you will. With the way that the schedule's shaken out here, you get the Thursday night game, a Sunday night game. The Sunday night game is the most peculiar one of all of them. I'm not sure what the schedule makers were thinking when they put that one out there. Pittsburgh at Las Vegas, but
it's the history behind it, man.
Sure.
All they're going to talk about is the history
and 2 franchises,
and the 80s, right? I mean, that's what it is every year that these two play each other. They just talk about all the historical matchups and battles that they had, which is all fun, well, and good, right? I like these primetime games being opposite coasts, essentially, right? Because I think it involves more people. There's nothing – I find nothing more boring than a game like the Jets. Well, yeah, like the Monday night game last week with the Jets and Bills, right? You are regionalized to New York. Yep. Like, yes, people tune in because it's football, but your casual fan has very little interest in that game, right? Outside of fantasy and because it's football on TV. At least this way, you kind of get people from coast to coast. God knows that Steelers fan base travels well. So they're going to tune in.
So they're going to be there anyways.
Heck yeah.
But once again, we get 2 Monday night games.
Barf. I hate that.
It's weird. What makes it weirder is that it's last week it was 2 East Coast basically teams, 2 East Coast venues, and it's again 2 East Coast venues with the Eagles at Tampa Bay and the Rams at Cincinnati.
It's hot
garbage. Rams at Cincinnati. You had to have thought when they put that together, that was going to be a very fun, Super Bowl rematch. 2 teams on the up and up, and oh boy, it looks like it's 2 teams racing for pick number 1 at this point.
So, well, I think Cincinnati will rebound. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this double Monday night thing. Like, I liked it better when they stacked the games, right? You had one start, at what would be crazy early for the West Coast. Yes, I understand that. But then you had that late game, but they were back to back. This overlapping by an hour, hour and a half is garbage. Like, I want to watch both games, and I want to watch them in their entirety. So,
right.
Even if I get a late start and I have to record the first half of the first game and then just speed through the commercials, I'm caught up by halftime, or by the time halftime's over. If you're fast forwarding through the commercials to watch it, and then you get the second one, I'm sure ESPN, ABC, the ABC conglomerate feels like they get more total views being prime time across all time zones, as opposed to one being too early for the West Coast and then the other being too late for the East Coast. But let me tell you, sitting here in the Mountain Time Zone, or even in the Central Time Zone where you're at, Alex, hot stinking garbage. Like,
it's tough. It's a 6:15 and a 7:15 start.
That's
tough.
Agreed. It runs way too much into my getting all my DraftKings and FanDuels and all of my DFS lineups in. I just no. Move it back. Give me one. All right. Couple of questions coming in here. Nicholas over on the YouTube: Tua, Swift, Brees, Devontae, Tyreek, Laporta, Gibbs, Connor, Roshan, P. Ryan, Judy, JSN, Quentin Johnston, 12-person PPR, stand pat or try and make a move.
I mean, depending on where your waiver wire is, right? Like, I'm taking a stab at Jerome Ford, try and bolster that lineup here just a little bit, and I would drop.
Quentin Johnston.
Yeah,
I'm not Quentin
Johnston's buried. Yes, he might become a thing for a hot minute if one of these receivers go down, but he's still fourth on the depth chart. His routes run per game have been, fifth on the team. He's not doing enough for me to keep a roster spot at this point. And yes, we might have to turn around and chase him later, but if you can grab a guy now who's going to make an immediate impact, I say do it, because as tough as Ford's matchup is against Tennessee, Swift's is equally difficult against Tampa Bay, right? And Gibbs, yes, you like to play. You got a tough matchup in your running back room this week, right? Connor's going up against the Cowboys. We're not sure if Gibbs is actually going to get more run now that with Monty being dinged up for a week or two. But I think Brees Hall has a good week. Taylor Swift. DeAndre Swift is going to have a tough one here. So I'd be looking to drop Quentin Johnson, pick up Ford, and that would be the move that I'm looking at here currently.
All right, I like it. Alrighty, Mr. COD Reaper looking to pick up a new kicker. Have Folk looking at Aubrey, Jay Elliott.
Sure, either one.
Yeah, pick up the one that's playing in a dome this week. Aubrey's playing out in.
Find the one playing
against. Yeah, Aubrey's playing against Dallas, or playing at Arizona, so it's inside.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, I think you can do that. Offense is going to be a bit more efficient than what Tennessee's is.
Absolutely. Terry saying that his tight end shine is Taysom Hill.
Ooh, there you go.
There it is. Yeah, Isaac asking Hunter or Freiermuth this week. It's Hunter Henry for me.
Yeah, I think I'm going Hunter Henry too, right? We haven't seen enough cohesion out of this Pittsburgh passing offense just yet, right? And yes, we like Pat Freiermuth. I have him in our home league, right? He's one of the tight ends in my home league, but I think I'd look at Hunter Henry this week over Freiermuth, and I'd be pretty confident with that, given what I think the usage is going to be.
Yeah. All righty, guys, we're going to start going through with final thoughts here and wrapping up. Out there for all the viewers and listeners, if you got some questions, you got some concerns, you need some help, throw it in the chat here, and we'll get those wrapped up here before we call it a night here. But guys, any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Tough week, right? We're coming out of a tough week. We're trying to make a lot of roster decisions, right? Anywhere from 2-0 to 0-2, right? So we're starting to jockey a little bit. We understand where some of these usages are coming from, what these constructs look like, and then you throw injuries in on top of it, right? So this is the grind. We are fully in it already. 2 full weeks into the season, but keep with us. Keep with us. Feel free to bounce any question, comment, concern you have off of us. We try and get to everybody as soon as possible. Derek's really good about making sure that the group sees that, and we kind of, think tank it for a few minutes or whatever it takes, and then get back to you. So we'll help out how best we can. But good luck in week 3, guys. It's a decent slate of games here.
Yeah, no, it'll be should be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us on all those socials: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Good Old Boys FF. Best place to support the independent podcast, head over to the youtube.com/@goodoldboys and click the subscribe button, ring that bell, get the notifications when we go live. Terry has his final thought here. Final thoughts: add Zamir White. Jacobs is out of shape. Also try to add QB Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford was the QB1 waiver wire target in our waiver wire videos there. So right there with you, Terry. All righty. So, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. We've got the Friday show coming at you, 11 p.m. Eastern. We'll be going through looking at the entire slate of games, calling where we think those things are going to be as far as, spread, over, unders, player props, all of that, answering all your fantasy questions when we go live again Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern. Again, just head over to the YouTube channel, click that bell, get the notification for when we go live, and you won't miss those episodes at all there. But that's going to do it for us. He's Kevin. He's Alex. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodle-loos.